Many fans here in the chat.
Hello and welcome back to final 9 holes of the Andalucia Open for the FPO division, the last Euro Tour event. And of course now it is late in the off season, but still bringing you some coverage from this last event. The event was of course played in beautiful Chipiona, Spain, although arguably not as beautiful today, as we have a bit of a rainstorm on top of the course, and for that reason all of our rounds were pushed many hours earlier. This round started at 9 AM with a shotgun start, so that's why we're starting on hole number 14 for the back 9. Our round started of course on hole 5. Now we're playing holes 14 to 18 and then holes 1 to 4. But starting on 14, a hole that is extremely difficult as a par 3 and kind of playing like a par 3.5. It's 125 meters with OB left on that path and OB right in the bushes. There is a private property on the right side of that bushy fence. All of our players trying to get through the gap off the tee and hopefully stay somewhere on the fairway. Looks like Aida has done that very well. And while this hole is very difficult to reach off the tee, you're not gonna see anybody in circle 1 most likely. We have actually seen one birdie here. Jenni Karppinen threw it in from about 60 meters yesterday. So in round 2 of course. But I would be more than surprised if something like that happened today as well. So everybody with good drives, everybody on the fairway. That's really what you want on this one. There is of course there's a lot of things that need to happen in order for this event to get still tight. You know, Silva having 12 strokes over Jenni in second place, and Jenni having 21 strokes above Birgit, who has 14 strokes above Aida. You know, everybody is trying to play their own game, and I mean there's still a chance that something weird happens, especially Jenni there putting some good pressure on Silva. Silva still having to make a good putt for the par. And everybody with nice approaches. Good looking start to the back 9 here. Let's see if we can start as strong as on the putting side. Silva here. Can't really see the wind on camera as much as it was blowing out there. I can tell you it was blowing for sure. And Silva, of course she makes it. She's been putting very well. Unfortunately, Aida there just dropping out of the left side. Starting off with a lone bogey on the back. And as if it wasn't windy enough already, we're moving closer and closer to the shore, actual shore, to the sea. So if the wind wasn't making these holes difficult enough, it sure will. From now on, hole 15, very tight fairway, OB left and OB right on the along of that bush line, and then the fence later on, and on the left it's that white looking path. And this hole just so difficult in this wind. All you have to do is keep your shot very low, throw something that will handle the wind. And looks like Silva has done it just beautifully. Almost going to the long OB. She's gonna have a bit of a comebacker. And interesting thing here is that we actually, I believe, we have a bit of a tailwind. So you can see that on Birgit shot that has just crawled over the edge to the water. She's never gonna get that disc back. And same thing for Jenni, that wind making the disc slightly more stable than usual. But she's still well in the circle. Tough wind though with that right to left wind left for the putt. And Aida, who parked this hole in round 1, this time not quite the case. Or I'm not sure, it might have been actually round 2. But anyway, she has a good record on this one. Not quite so this time, although this is almost going to the basket. What a nice shot there. And Birgit will still have to work for the bogey. Not really what you'd like to do, especially with Silva making a birdie here, pushing her round score to -2. Now -2 is actually quite a crazy score. In order to be at all under par in these conditions is extremely good in any division. So Birgit here just going over the basket, and she's still gonna have a tough putt left. So this time, believe for a double? Yes, that is a double. She's not exactly stoked about that, but as we talked earlier, there's so many strokes between all of these players that for them to lose any of their positions in the tournament, something very dramatic would have to happen. Moving on, hole 16. Potentially even a more difficult version of the last hole. Very similar shape. You have that OB on the right side, this time on the right side of that white wall. And on the left side, anything on the sand will be considered OB. The curb is actually safe, as usual for this course. And even behind the basket you have that OB path. Only about 6 meters, both on left, right and long side of the basket to stay safe. And especially in this wind, I would be expecting all of the players to keep their shots very low. Silva not exactly keeping it low, but what a nice looking line. She's gonna be on the edge of the circle there. That's really good. And quite a ballsy play to actually put it that high in the air, even in the wind. Same thing for Jenni here. Looks like she's kind of challenging that left side OB, and that's exactly what she ends up finding. She's gonna drop another stroke, and it's kind of looking like a victory lap right now. As we also see Aida finding that OB. Can't really see the wind on camera, but you can, for sure you can hear it. You could, I believe, the sort of a flapping sound that you can hear here, I believe that is the protection of the camera. You have this sort of a protective, you know, you kind of have this protective hood over the camera to hopefully avoid the camera from getting wet. That's what you can hear flapping. As Birgit will be up there for a par. It's kind of what you want in these conditions. As Aida will have a tough putt left. Let's see, hopefully Jenni can get a little bit closer. Even running it from here would be a possibility. And almost makes it. Let's see, come on Silva here. For the birdie. And she does it. What an incredible putt. I just keep being impressed with her ability to putt in the wind. But that's something, I feel like something to learn for all the disc golfers. As we saw a tough miss there from Aida. I feel like that's something to learn for all disc golfers, is that in order to putt well in the wind... that is tough to see. But yeah, for putting well in the wind, you want your disc to be as flat as possible. You want that flat release, good speed. You know, I feel like a lot of people think about spin as the kind of, you know, determining factor whether your disc works in the wind or not in a putt. But I really feel it's more about the flat angle, and that's what Silva is doing very well. And possibly something that a lot of other players might be struggling with. As we're moving on to hole number 17, a big, slightly downhill off the tee, playing as a par 5. It's not a par 4, even though the whole sign says it's a par 4. Just want to get as far down there off the tee. First you have to be inbounds, and the secondary goal is to be as far as possible. Really, even with a shorter drive, you still have a good chance at the birdie. And then, of course, on the second shot, just trying to get as much distance, while again staying in bounds. And after that, you should be left with a relatively short approach. It looks like the weather has actually cleared up a little bit. Hopefully not as much rain as Silva unfortunately has found the left side OB. I'm sure that's gonna be very annoying, even though she doesn't need the strokes for the tournament. A very ambitious player who for sure wants to score at their best at any given moment. As we see Jenni, unfortunately, I believe finding the right side OB. We didn't see an OB graphic though. So it is still possible that she might have actually somehow kicked back or faded back to the fairway, which would be very fortunate, as Birgit is the only clean shot so far. And Aida here, this needs to get down to stay safe. And I'm not sure whether it has done it. Once again, we did not see an OB graphic, so it is possible that she's still safe. And you can see the wind is just turning these discs over. It's a really difficult wind on this one. If I remember correctly, it was a bit of a left to right wind. So if you turn the disc over, you're gonna sail to the right. But if you keep it on a hyzer, the wind is going to bounce your disc around and possibly just slam it down. So as we see this player just getting down the fairway, trying to stay inbounds and just barely able to do so by Aida. And Jenni here, either the third, I'm not sure which shot this is with the confusion off the tee, but that looks like it's a pretty good distance. She's gonna have a long putt, borderline unmakeable putt in this wind. I'm not trying to, you know, not trying to downplay her abilities, but I'm not sure whether any player in the world would be comfortable putting from 15 meters in this wind. As Birgit, a bit of a wobble on the forehand, but actually makes the shot better. With no wobble, that would have been closer to the OB on the right, but a nice slight little turn there. And Silva also putting it under the basket. Let's see if Jenni runs this or not. I would expect her to just try to put it as close to the basket, just trying to get under there, tap in, save the stress to another hole. And Aida there, pretty good run there, no problem. I feel like always, you could always call it a good run if you are managing to hit the basket from outside the circle in this wind. And that's gonna be a par for Silva. And Jenni actually even for the birdie, so she was inbounds off the tee. And after that big second shot, she was even able to get an eagle chance. Very impressive stuff. And we're moving on to hole number 18. Another big par 4. This time you don't have much of an OB trouble. At least not off the tee. Maybe on the second shot that right side path will come into play. That is playing as OB, of course. But off the tee you're just trying to get as far forward and left as possible, trying to ideally split this hole in half, but also anything slightly under that is very much good. You're likely not gonna see a lot of birdies on this one, so par is really the kind of, it's not the best case scenario. Of course you can birdie the hole, but it's just so difficult that you might as well be aiming for the par here. And especially today, as the wind on this one was not particularly helpful. You had a left to right tailwind, so meaning that all of these hyzers will be pushed down and to the right. So it's very difficult to get that left swing that you would like. You know, both Jenni and Birgit there being well to the fairway, but not exactly a lot of distance. And even Silva there hitting the angle pretty much perfect. Just the wind not allowing for a lot of glide. As everybody is pretty well to the fairway. Now it's once again just like last hole. It's just about chipping down that distance. Trying to get as far down there as possible to hopefully set up for an easy approach. And while not any approach will be particularly easy in this wind, if you can even have a slightly easier approach, that's gonna make a big difference. For example, where Birgit is compared to where Aida is. Aida is gonna have such an easy time getting to the basket. And same thing for Silva. And Jenni actually, she could use the wind here by going left, but rather decides to go with a more stable disc and on that right side. I'm just barely saying inbounds there. That was almost one of the worst breaks I have seen throughout the tournament. And this one is looking bad, but the palm tree saves her. I feel like that was definitely going towards the right side OB with that turn by the wind. But now she's gonna still have a chance for the bogey as... oh no. Oh no, Aida has thrown a poor shot there, not quite having a good stability on the disc. Really important in this wind just to have a disc that is as stable as possible and have a release as clean as possible. We saw Birgit there having a stable disc, but the release being a little bit unclean, so the disc being just pushed over. And Silva with a surprisingly weak approach, leaving it at 10 meters. And that's well done from Jenni. Anytime you see the chains of the basket swinging in the air, you know that it's a pretty serious wind. Nobody has been putting at those chains for a good 10 minutes, but they're still swinging. And that's a tough miss from Silva. She's still gonna have A large comebacker left. Oh my gosh, this is much longer than I thought. Good putt though. And Birgit as well. Nice putting display here. Of course, we're gonna see a lot of red on the scorecard. And that's a good catch by the latitude basket. That's something that the latitude baskets, I feel, are pretty good at. They really catch from all sides. You know, you can putt pretty high, low, left and right, and they're gonna catch it most of the time. So that was a lone par from Jenni, getting a lot of good strokes on the card. And now we're moving on to hole 1, which is playing extremely difficult compared to what it was in the previous rounds. And the reason for that being the headwind that is absolutely ripping on this hole. 101 meters, probably playing closer to 130 in this wind. I would be very surprised if anybody ended up inside of circle here. And you can see the headwind is a little bit from right to left actually. So helping the hyzer shot. It is just extremely strong right now. Difficult to read the wind, difficult to really keep it, you know, under the wind. And even Silva here, I believe a good tree hit. She was kind of fading towards that left side, you know, left side path, which is considered OB. Of course, the water and the left side path both being OB. So everybody inbounds so far. Let's see if Aida can follow. She's got it pretty high up in the air, but that should be just fine as long as no skips. Oh, and she has found the OB by just a few centimeters. As Silva smartly plays against the wind. She's gonna be on that right side, just a couple of meters left. And Birgit kind of letting the putter float away from her. That's gonna be a really difficult putt. As Jenni here, trying to glide with the wind. She's gonna be just under there as well. And Birgit with a good putt. I feel like she has kind of found some good rhythm on the putting. Saw her having some big putting struggles earlier in the tournament. But now it's looking pretty good. And of course Aida with a bit of a miss there. Tough bogey adding on to the total. And we're gonna have 3 pars. Pretty well done in these windy conditions on that hole. As hole 2 is also playing into that same strong headwind. Hole 2 of course already was difficult enough with that Mando tree early on the right. You have to go left off, so forcing you to go either down the middle or over the left side path, which is of course lining the OB. Also the right side path being considered OB. And in this headwind, this hole is just almost impossible. You can see Jenni throwing a pretty good shot, getting about halfway down there. Have to throw something extremely overstable to keep it on the fairway. And that's exactly what Silva is doing. And still almost finding the OB, and actually does find the OB. As Birgit has one of the weirdest reactions of a disc I have seen in a long time. But she actually does end up safe. And Aida there, that's going to be left side OB early. So you can see just why and just how difficult this hole is playing. Really at this point, all of these players are just trying to survive through the round. Hopefully, you know, not injure themselves, not traumatize themselves mentally. It's really difficult to, you know, stay sane in this sort of weather. It's not the weather you would like to be playing a tournament at. When you do that, when you throw a good forehand but the wind just turns it over, slightest of wobble out of the hand, and not much you can really do at that point. Just gotta throw something extremely overstable. And Jenni, that's gonna be OB to the left. And I feel like Jenni is probably, you know, with the wind slipping away from her hands, I'm sure she's just about done with this round pretty soon. And Silva here. That was actually a pretty good drive, even though it was OB. She has an easy approach to get up and down there for the bogey. And whoa, Birgit going way aggressive. Almost to the backside OB. And now with the elevated basket, that's actually gonna be a really difficult putt coming back. But Jenni first here. That would be such a good putt to make, not quite. Really that 10-meter range in this sort of wind is... It's almost too much for any player. And Birgit just laying up under the basket. Only 2 holes remaining. We're gonna move on to hole number 3. Once again, same theme as on pretty much every hole on the round. Path on the left, pointing out the left side of the OB line. Path on the right, pointing out the right side OB. And of course you have path on the backside, also lining the backside OB. Really all you have to do here is, well, not all you have to do, but all you're trying to do is throw something low and overstable, hopefully stay on the fairway. And Silva, what an incredible shot, getting the full flight within long putting distance. That's really the best thing you can ask for on this one. I wouldn't be surprised if nobody in FPO or MPO birdied this hole in today's wind. And definitely not gonna be Jenni there, as she has gone OB to the right. And Birgit with a nice forehand. Needs to stay there though. And she has found the OB on the right. You can see just how tiny that fairway is as far as the width. This one looking really good though from Aida. Getting the perfect flight. She's also gonna be kind of within that circle 2's edge. And Birgit here once again with that clear approach disc. This time not wobbling too much. Still handles the wind just fine. And this approach will actually be pretty difficult in the wind. But Jenni does a pretty good job of that. And now let's see some potential even birdie runs. Okay, honestly, actually, in this wind, I don't expect any of these players to be running it from 20. And look at that wind gust just blowing it out of Aida's hand. And Silva even playing with a very overstable approach disc and not quite able to get it in. As everybody's cleaning up, they're gonna be so ready to go back to the hotel, and oh no, Jenni gonna be even more ready to go back to the hotel after this, as she has missed it from just the edge of the bullseye. And now moving on to the final hole, potentially one of the longest, most complicated holes on the course, hole 4, playing as par 5, 218 meters off the tee. You just have to get out of the woods, play somewhere near the shore, we see on the left side of the screen, shore of the lake that being, and from the shore of the lake you just want to get as far down there as possible, hopefully on your second shot, and then leave yourself with just a short third shot. If you can do that, everything's fine, and you might even have an easy birdie. And it actually looks like the conditions, just as were on the last hole, have calmed down a little bit. So call that a blessing or a curse, I don't really care, but I'm sure these players are happy that it's finally over with all the rain and the wind. As Silva has actually thrown a very good shot, getting kind of unlucky / lucky with the bench, not going all the way to the water. And Jenni has thrown this shot all 3 rounds now, just trying to throw that forehand to the shore, and this time very well done. She has a good chance for the birdie there. And from here there's really no play to get over the water, just trying to get to the edge. And I suppose Aida will probably try to go to the right side of the water, or potentially over. Couldn't quite see that one land, but we didn't see an OB graphic, so I would think that it has to be safe there. And Jenni also getting over the water. Same thing for Birgit and Silva here. You know, she has solidified the wind the win, not the wind, but she has solidified the win a long time ago, but now she just wants to get that final birdie, hopefully end her round at 1 under par. That's if she gets the birdie on this one. As we saw Aida there fading towards the water, but should be safe. And Jenni here trying to do something similar, hopefully a bit better, but she has actually done something similar and a bit worse. As of going into the water is very close, just about 6 meters left of the basket from this angle that these players are throwing from. So Silva there, gonna be on the edge of the circle, gonna have that winning putt if she wants to, or she can also just lay up, depending on how she wants to do it. And yeah, tough putt there. Jenni with a tough finish, and Silva, the champion of the Euro Tour 2023. Congratulations, incredible showing, even shooting under par in these difficult conditions, as Birgit not quite able to make the last one. Jenni hopefully making this. Weird to say hopefully, as you can see myself in the background. I actually saw this moment live. Our MPO round just ended before this, and I wanted to see the FPO champion Silva Saarinen. yeah, that's just great to see. Such a well-deserved win. I believe Silva shot 2 rounds in the tournament that were both 1000 or above rated, so just telling how crazy good the level of play on her is. Congratulations for Jenni for the 2nd place, Birgit for 3rd, and Aida. Great to see her representing the home country of Spain. Thank you guys for the season, and hopefully see you in 2024.